Hello and welcome to the Slackware ARM vlog. This vlog is about the development of Slackware Linux on the ARM platform. And just to begin, I just want to express my gratitude, say thank you for those of you who are patrons of the project. And you can become a patron by visiting arm.slackware.com/sponsor, as you can see on the screen. The donations really, at the moment, they go towards paying for the electricity to power these machines and replacing bits of broken hardware and buying new hardware. And that's pretty much it at the moment. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. It just helps keep the project going, and I really enjoy doing this. And this is one of the things, particularly with the ARM64 port or AArch64, although actually, you know, it might be AArch64. I need to check. I listened to somebody the other day who knows about these things, and they pronounced it AArch64, and it is architecture. So, but then again, I heard somebody from Debian call it AArch, so I've been calling it AArch. Anyway, maybe I'll change that at some point. Anyway, back to the thread. In this episode, I want to present what I've been working on for the last month, which is integrating support for running Slackware AArch64 on macOS in paravirtualization mode. So basically, it's a hell of a lot faster than emulation. And way back in the day, like in 2006, 7 or something like that, my ARM hardware broke, like completely broke, and I had no real hardware. And I was using QEMU to develop Slackware 32-bit ARM at the time. And apart from the fact that I needed, one of my friends, Jim Hawkins, needed to patch QEMU to make it so I could actually build GCC. There was some, because QEMU was quite new at the time and it wasn't entirely emulating ARM correctly. It was pretty slow, but I managed to work through it. But now, as I'm going to show you in some subsequent videos, I'm going to actually switch temporarily to building Slackware AArch64 inside of VMs, rather than on my Honeycomb LX2, which is, you know, native bare metal hardware. And I'm going to show you how fast it actually is. But in this episode, I'm just going to show you how we can install Slackware AArch64 inside of VMware Fusion and also inside of UTM. So this is VMware Fusion. I'm using a professional version. It's free for personal use. You have to sign up and provide various details and so on to use it, but it is really good. We'll also be using UTM, which is an open source software, which it doesn't have as many features, but actually it works really well as well. It's just as fast, and I've been using it, and it's stable. It's fast and stable. To me, those are the main things. So let's begin with VMware Fusion. Now to begin, so we'll open up our browser, type in Slackware ARM, and it's usually the first hit, so arm.slackware.com. Click on that, click on installation guides on the left hand side. At the moment, as of April 2025, there is no stable release of Slackware AArch64. So we have the current branch, which is the development branch. It's very stable, but it's not a release. So I click on the instructions here. The first thing we need to do is download the Slackware AArch64 installer ISO. So the way that we do this here, it's actually very similar to the x86. We're actually providing you a bootable ISO that you could write, I think, or just about, write to a DVD and boot from there as well if you have an EFI system. These ISOs contain the full package set from Slackware, so it makes it really easy. So the first thing we need to do is to open up a shell. So you can open up your terminal application like this. I'm going to be using Ghost TTY, which I strongly recommend. You can download that, it's free. You'll want to change the config of it though, because the default, the way it renders is a bit not to my taste, let's put it that way. But you can change the config for that. I strongly recommend it. So return to the root of my home directory. I'm going to make a directory called Slackware. CD Slackware, and I'm going to set the version of Slackware to current, right, and set the mirror server to this one, and then It's kind of making me think I could just make a script that you could download actually. Like some of them do. You just run curl against this URL and it just does everything. Maybe I'll do that actually. Anyway, okay, so let's rsync that. Okay, that was the GPG signature. That's the ISO itself. Actually, let's do that. Let's do this first, actually. Okay, and then lastly, do this one. Yes, fine. Oops, there we go. Okay, so now I'm downloading the ISO itself. So this will take apparently 20 minutes. Okay, so the ISO has downloaded. The next step is to verify the ISO. There are two methods of doing this. The easiest method for macOS, because it doesn't include GPG by default, and I don't have it installed either, the easiest way is to just validate the ISO by comparing the MD5 sum, or the MD5 hash, and that's what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to run this command here, and then I'm going to compare the signatures. Now, in the documentation, the signatures most likely won't match the ISO that you downloaded. In this case, it does actually, because I only wrote this documentation like a few days ago. And so therefore the ISO, the MD5 just happens to match at this moment in time. But in the future, probably when you watch this, it may well not match, and that's okay. This is just an example on the web page here. You can just visually compare these here, or you could just write a script to do it as well. But as you can see here, these are the same, they're identical. To accurately verify the ISO, you'd need to install GPG on macOS, or you could download the ISO onto a Linux box and use GPG there. I do encourage you to do that, and if you want to, the instructions are here, so you can do that on Linux perhaps, or even install GPG on macOS. It's up to you. But now, I'm satisfied that I've downloaded the correct ISO and it looks like it's in good shape. Now, I've already downloaded and installed VMware Fusion, so I don't need to do that. So the next step is to begin to create our VM image. Okay, so let's open up VMware Fusion. So I'm just going to move the instructions off the screen because I do know how to do this off the top of my head. So click on plus, click on new, click on create custom virtual machine, click continue, click on Linux, scroll down to the bottom, click on other Linux 6.x 64-bit ARM, leave this as it is to create new virtual disk, click on continue, then click on customize settings. Okay, you can give your machine a name. I'm going to call mine Slackware AArch64, leave it where it is. Okay, now next let's configure the processors. I'm going to leave it with 2 cores, that works fine for me, but the RAM is a little bit low. We can get away with, 1 gig would be fine, but I will allocate 4 gigs of RAM for this VM. You can get away with 1 gig and probably even, as it says, 768 meg recommended. That would also work. I haven't tried it actually, but don't see why it wouldn't work. But again, I'm going to set 4 gigs for mine. Okay, next we go to hard disk, and you can get away with setting this as 35 gigs, and it gives you about 10 gigs free. We'll install a full collection of Slackware packages, which requires a footprint of about 25 gigabytes, all in all. And so this gives us just about 10 gigs free to work with on the system, which is usually more than enough. Okay, so we click apply, click on show all, go to CD, click on connect, click on the drop down, choose your image, which is this one. Okay, that's that, and that's everything. Okay, so close that, click play. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. So install Slackware, press enter. Let's move that off the screen. Okay. There we go. So pick yourself a key map. In my case, I'm going to pick the UK. Okay. So I'm now going to partition the storage, which is running on NVMe. I'm going to do it pretty quickly, so you can follow through the instructions to do it for yourself at a slower pace. NVMe N1. Okay, first of all, we're going to make it a GPG disk label. Create a new partition, 100 megabyte, type UEFI, new 2. I'm going to set myself a 4 gig swap, type 2 swap, new PW done. Okay, next setup. Add swap, yes, yes, Again, I'm just running through this really quickly. You don't need to stop and take notes. You can just refer to the install guide. Done. Yes, I want to install off the ISO. I'm going to install everything. Now, just to show you how quickly this installs, let's press go. Whoops, go. And if you need something to pass the time, you can play the brick tick game, and I do love the brick tick game. All you have to do is press the Alt key and say the right arrow, and you switch into another console. To return, you just do Alt and then press the left arrow to switch back. So you press Enter and then type brick tick, and then press, was it space? And then you press L to launch, then you use the arrow keys. So we're currently sitting at 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Quickly see how we're doing. Okay, text live. Okay, we're almost done. I've made it to level 2. Oh, come on. Oh, slow ball. I don't like slow ball. Right, it's done. The installation is actually completed, but what I've done is in the installer, I've touched a flag which causes the installer to pause before moving into the post-installation phase. This is something I do for doing demonstration purposes for these videos and also for working on the installer sometimes. So actually the full installation of Slackware completed in about 8 minutes. That's just seriously fast. And now we're into the post-installation phase. Okay, we're configuring the bootloader. Okay. Yep, we can pick all the defaults. Apple virtual VMware Fusion on .slackware.com. No, that's fine. Defaults. I'm going to pick rpc.nfs because I always do. I use an NFS client on here. Yes, I do want some screen fonts. For this one, we're going to pick this one, which is the one that we're currently using in the installer. And select Europe. Vim is fine. KDE is fine. Set myself a root password like that. Exit. Reboot. Okay. So 10 minutes, 34 seconds have elapsed. Now you can see Slackware has been installed and it's ready to boot. So let's boot it. And refer back to the instructions, which are here somewhere. Okay, so we've done all of that. I think the next step we say is to add yourself a pleb account, so a non-root account. Oh, here we go, yeah. So log in as root with the password I just set, add user, Moses, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, then we press the Alt and right arrow key again, like that. Moses, startx, boom. And we'll bring up KDE. Now, one of the things I'm going to point out right now is that in VMware Fusion, because in Slackware we're not, and I do point it out here, we don't ship the VM tools. I think it's down here somewhere. Oh, it's written up here somewhere. Tools. Yeah. So we don't ship the OpenVM tools package in Slackware because it needs a dependency and it's extra work for me to maintain it. I've made a link here to a thread on the Slackware ARM forum on Linux questions where some of you guys in the community have already set this up for yourself. So I thought I'll just link it to that thread and you can talk amongst yourselves and figure out how to configure it and set it up. That does mean that sharing out of the box, so if you want to make a directory available from the host macOS system into your VM, it doesn't work. You have to install OpenVM tools first. That's also the same with like resizing the screen and stuff like this. So you can't just drag it and have it resize it. It works fine in UTM, but just not inside of VMware Fusion until you install that package. But I'm not going to install that here. But as you can see, we have our KDE environment, Firefox, and everything should work. Skip all this stuff. Okay. Yeah. You know what I'd love? If it didn't do all, it's like, it doesn't need to look fancy and slow. I just want to just click into it. I don't want slow stuff. Okay, so if we go to youtube.com/ actually I'm going to arm.slackware.com, go to our vlog like that. Of course, accept everything. And then here we go. And you can hear, maybe you can't because it might be a bit, it's not so loud, but oh, here we go. So you can hear that over the sound, but there we go. Okay, it's brilliant, isn't it? It really is. Okay, so that's that done. I'm going to now just pause the VMware machine. In fact, I shall just show you. So it's currently paused. If I want to open it up again, just double click on it and it resumes it where it was. I mean, it's seriously impressive. I absolutely love it. I really do. So now it's time to install using UTM. The first thing we need to do is to find the installation guide. So we're back on the Slackware ARM website. Click on installation guides. At the moment, we don't have a stable release, so we click on the current and we pick UTM. And here we go. So the first thing you need to do is download the ISO. We've already downloaded the ISO to install with VMware, so we don't need to do that part. Okay, and I've already downloaded and installed UTM, so I can also skip that part. So we'll open up UTM. And then click on Create Virtual Machine. Click on Virtualize. Click on Linux. Click on Use Apple Virtualization. Click Browse. Select the ISO image. Click Open. Click Continue. There is something weird going on here. I've got an inkling of what it is. But if you install with only 4 gigs with the default setting for the CPU cores, it tends to hang in the installation process while it's unpacking packages. I'm going to increase that to 6 gigs. It's certainly overkill for Slackware. As you can see in the VMware installation, we don't need 6 gigs, but this will work. And also I intend to use this VM to develop Slackware, as I'll show you in the subsequent videos. So for the moment, we'll set it to 6 gigs. For the drive, I'm also going to set it a little bit bigger. In the documentation, you'll see that we allocate 35 gigs to the storage, which again will leave us with about 10 gigs free. But again, because I want to use this VM to do some Slackware development work afterwards, I do want a little bit more storage. I'm just going to check how much storage I actually have on this machine. Do I have 178 gigs? So I'm actually going to give myself 80 gigs on this one, but you can use 35 just to play around with Slackware. That's more than sufficient. In the documentation, you'll see that we don't configure any shared directories, but I'm going to do it here because it works out of the box. So I'm just going to share my Slackware directory. Click continue, and I'll name it Slackware, Slack AArch64. That's good. Okay, there are other settings you can play around with UTM, but I've explicitly called out that do not select to use the NVMe interface, because every time I've tried it, the system hangs. Don't know why, but it does. It works fine with VMware. It's a different implementation, but just leave it as the default. It's fine. Okay, so let's boot the Slackware installer by clicking play and press enter on install Slackware. Okay, so press 1 and you select your key map if it's not the US. Okay, with UTM it's a little different. We use VDA rather than NVMe. So there we go. Make myself a GTP disk label. New partition. So I'll just set 100 megabytes as the first partition. Type UEFI and I'll give myself a 4 gigabyte swap partition, a 4G. Type 2 swap N. Okay, so there we go. And you can follow the documentation to see how this is done. Okay, so setup, add swap. Yeah. 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 Yeah, there we go. And do a full installation. Oh, I didn't start the timer. There we go. Right, so let's see how quickly this thing installs. And again, if you really want to, you can play the brick tick game. You know I love it, but I'm not going to for this one. I'm just going to let it install. So I just caught it as it finished. So it took just under 7 minutes for the full package set to install. That's about 3 minutes faster than installing it in VMware. So let's resume the counter. Press resume on here. Okay, defaults, yes, yes. Apple UTM. Yeah. Okay, again, I'll use NFS. Yes, T728B. 1, no, Europe. London, yes, yes, yes. Okay, yes, exit. Reboot, done. Okay. So the VM is now rebooting into the OS. There it is. Just press enter on that just to expedite the boot process. All right, there you go. Stop. So under 10 minutes, I've been able to create the disk partitions, perform a full installation of Slackware AArch64, complete the post-installation tasks, and boot to a login prompt in under 10 minutes. I mean, that is just seriously fast. Now for UTM, I'm going to upgrade the system as well. I didn't do that in VMware just because I didn't want to do it twice, but we'll do it here. The way that it works is that I supply a snapshot of Slackware. So in the case of Slackware Current, which is the development branch, I take a snapshot of the packages at a moment in time that have been link tested and seem to work okay generally. And I package that up and distribute it. And I update that usually once every 3 months. Sometimes it's more frequent than that, but it's usually once every 3 months, once every quarter. And with a stable release of Slackware, again, it's a snapshot of the stable release at that moment in time. And either way, there are always updates, whether it's a stable release where we provide, maybe it's mostly security fixes and serious bug fixes, but in the case of Slackware Current, it's just the ongoing development process. So what we'll do here is move to this section where it says keeping the OS up to date. So we can click on this link here and learn about how we can update our system. Okay, so to make this slightly easier is I'm going to actually power off the machine. I'll show you why. Off. And I'm going to change the settings for the network. Okay. So click on edit here and I go to network. Now this is documented in the install guide and I'm going to make it bridged like this. Done. Okay, and then reboot it. So if I go back to the install guide, so in the install guide, you'll see that we changed the networking to use bridge mode. And that's because if we don't, the DNS doesn't work. However, you might find that it works for you, and it could be because I have a sort of VPN client. It's not exactly a VPN client, but it's a network access client, and that could be interfering with the DNS. I'm not sure. It works fine in VMware though, but if I just changed it to bridge mode, it just works. So that's what I've done. So I've just rebooted it into bridge mode, and that is going to allow me to SSH into it. I just need to know what the IP address is first. Okay, so SSH root. Oh, I need to, first of all, I won't be able to SSH in because by default, Slackware doesn't enable root access. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a plebeian account, so a non-root user account. Just do all the defaults. I need to put my name in just to make it fast. Okay, so if I now log in to that there, at 192.168.1.155. Yes. Okay, let's get root. Okay, so I'm now root inside the VM using SSH, and that will allow me to easily just copy paste the commands in here. We're going to be using Slack package or Slack PKG here to keep the system up to date. So let's do that. And we can pick a mirror here. I'm just going to pick one of the mirror servers here, like that. Done. Next, we need to update the GPG key. So let's press yes, like that. Great. Next, do this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is generally how you do it. You can read the instructions for yourself, but this is generally how you do it. So there are no new packages to install that are new in the list, but there probably are some to update. Yeah, so there are various packages to update. So let's just update those packages. So this will now download the packages and then install them. So we'll come back when that's finished. Okay, the packages have downloaded and installed, and it's asking what you want to do with the .new files. So the way that the Slackware packages work, for any configuration file that's user serviceable, the new package will drop a new version of the configuration file if it's different from the existing one. In this case, because it's a brand new installation, I can just accept all of the new config files because I haven't touched any of them. If I'd edited any of these manually, I would want to perhaps diff the new version and the previous version, and then perhaps merge in any changes. But again, in this instance, I haven't touched the system, so I'm just going to overwrite them all. Okay, now there is a new kernel version that got downloaded. So what I'm going to do is reboot the system and I'll get Linux 6.12.22. Oh, that was over SSH. Okay, so we'll just wait. We'll see the system reboot here. There we go. Okay. All right, done. There you go. You can see we're now running Linux 6.12.22. Now, the only other thing I want to do is configure the shared directory, because I configured that when I created the VM. So you can scroll down to here and you can see where it says set up UTM shared directories. So I'll just follow the instructions directly here, but because I'm not SSH'd in, I'll just type it in. Actually, no, I won't. I'll SSH back into it again, it's easier. Okay, so, okay, first tab, and I'll just place this line at the bottom. Oh, actually, I just used an echo statement. Yeah, okay. Let's follow the instructions directly like that. I'll copy the entire line apart from the $, paste it in, and that will then append the line. Okay, well, that needs, there's some formatting issues with that one. I suppose I could fix it. Okay, let's just fix it. Oh, that's made it, don't like that there. There we go. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to fix the rest of it, but you can if you wish. Okay, so then we just need to mount it. Oh, mistake in the documentation there. It should be UTM share, but I put UTM. Okay, I'll fix that in a minute. Okay. So mount / what's it actually called in here though? So UTM. Okay. Let's just make another one. Okay. There we go. And there's my Slackware directory. Here's my ISOs. So this directory here is shared from the macOS file system on the host. It's read-write. Okay, so there you go. So the directory sharing works out of the box. We've updated the OS. And now if I just switch to another virtual console, back on the virtual console, you log in as my pleb account, run X. And there's KDE. So the difference with this in UTM versus VMware is that you can resize it automatically and it will resize. And that's because UTM is using the native support in a kernel. It's using virt.io. And so we don't need to install extra packages or anything like that. It just works out of the box. And again, if we open up, say, Firefox like this, all of that. Okay. And go to our vlog. Okay, and you've got sound. Really cool, huh? And again, we can suspend and resume, and it works. It's pretty neat, isn't it? I'm really pleased to be able to present this. You know, I never thought after 22 years that I would end up having Slackware ARM virtualized and everything actually works. Because I mean, it's been a long journey from the way that I used to install it with 32-bit ARM. I mean, it was such an effort. Maybe I'll show you in a future video how that used to be, because it was pretty painful even for me. And I did it, like, I reinstalled Slackware, I mean, like a few times a week in some occasions while I was developing. And now I can install the entire OS in under 10 minutes, whereas previously it took an hour or so, like on 32-bit ARM. I mean, it's just crazy. But I think that's all I've got to show you in this video. So again, thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, let me know in the chat or on the Linux Questions forum. And again, if you want to help support the project, please visit the URL that's highlighted here. And enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.